take me out of this place. Your word is so real. I can feel it in my soul. Is my hair good there? To my yeah. I'm feeling sleepy. Lord, lift me up. I can talk to him. And any man that believes God and takes him at his word, no matter what the situation is, God will perform another paradox to keep his word. For Abraham called the place Jehovah Jireh. The Lord has provided for him a sacrifice. He still can cause a paradox to happen. He can do that this afternoon. You will just take him at his word. Daniel, den full of hungry lions. How could it be that man? How could it be that man on a group of hungry lions stayed in the cave with them all night without any harm? The angel of the Lord, unseen to anyone else, was standing there. It was a paradox. Something had to keep that lion from getting to him. When the Hebrew children went into the fiery furnace, that's against all scientific understanding in that great age. It was unscientifically for a man to be thrown into a fiery furnace. That was the men taking them up there perished, and they fell into the fiery furnace and lived in that furnace a while. And the only thing it did was loose them from, okay? Here is Joseph that we are speaking of. How that man, just an ordinary man, that just come through a group of creeds that the men had formed, and laws and ceremony with nothing in them that says anything about giving men power to stop the sun. But here, with a commission from God, I will give you every piece of ground the soles of your feet set upon. I will be there. And the enemy was rotted. The sun was going down. If them kings had time to get themselves together again the next day, he will surely lose men. But Joseph knew he needed sunlight, and he looked up to the sun and said, "Stand still over Gibeon, and moon, stand there over Ajalion." And for the space of a whole day, that was all night long, the sun stood still and the moon stood there. That's a paradox. A man walking in the will of God could do such a thing. He was again in an Ephesus with the gospel sure. It was a paradox. Moses with a stick in his hand to go down and deliver the children of Israel was a paradox. When Egypt had all the armies and their well-trained men, it was a paradox. The virgin birth was a paradox. How could a virgin, against all scientific understanding, a woman that knew no man, could bring forth a child? And not only a child, but Emmanuel, who proved to be exactly what it said it could be. How could that happen? It was a paradox, because God spoke to his prophet hundreds of years before, and the prophets obeyed the word of God, and the word was spoken, and the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. And we believe that certainly it was a paradox. How that he could walk on water, that was a paradox. A human being, according to the size of your feet, couldn't do that, but he did. What was it? Unexplainable, but it was yet a paradox. God did it. We believe it. Fed 5,000 people with 2 fish and 5 baskets, but he did it. Multiplied not only 1 fish, but cooked fish. Not only bread, but cooked bread. How could he turn water to wine? All a paradox. He healed the sick. He healed the sick. Okay, and he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. His word still heals the sick. It's a paradox, certainly. He raised the dead after the mutual life had gone from them. Lazarus, the woman's son at 9, and Jairus' daughter, he raised the dead with his word, because he is the word. And then another great thing in closing, to prove that he was a Messiah, to prove what he was, he had to come in order and answer to the word. And the word said, when he spoke to the prophet, the Lord your God shall rise